All right, everyone, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here and your time and involvement in the CAC. We'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. Let me just ask real quick, since Rick sent out the packets, there've been 4 supplements. Has everybody got 4 different supplements, or anybody, should I say anybody not have 4 supplements? Okay, all right, just want to make sure. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Larry Tobias move to approve the agenda as presented.
Barb Winter, second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any online either. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
all alternates can vote at this point until we see who else signs on.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment for items not on the agenda by any of the committee members? Don't see many people in the public. Okay, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes from the February 5th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
David Z, I'll move to approve, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
David. Second, anybody? Okay, thanks, Ed. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, very good. Thank you. Financials, Lisa.
Lisa Corey, Finance Manager for the PPRTA. So the month I'm reporting is for December of 24. The sales and use tax revenue came in above the monthly amended budget by $721,938, or 5.3%. Overall, the year to date is above the amended budget by $6,477,389. December 24 revenues were above December 23 revenues by $335,967, or 2.4%. Any questions?
Any questions for Lisa? The thought that came to mind in looking at this and seeing that we had a good December and a nice recovery from November, but we're still tracking the same pattern, so to speak, generally. But I think we ought to be real careful when it comes to mid-year budget increases this year. I anticipate that we're not going to have the revenue this year that we've had in the past. And so as we start thinking, as member governments start thinking about mid-year adjustments, I wouldn't at this point be planning on much of an increase. So just throw that out there. I'm sure all of you people that are involved in all that financial stuff are aware of that too, but anyway. Okay. So item number 6, capital maintenance and public transportation contracts. We'll start off with Colorado Springs, line item transfers.
Hello, Mr. Chair, Gail Sturdivant with the City of Colorado Springs. You will see in the memo provided in your packet, we're asking for 2 groups of line item transfers. The first one that's presented on table 1 is to consolidate 3 of the parks programs funding into one program. And then three parks programs that have money in them and move them all into the Sinton Trail. So there is remaining funds, and sorry, I misread Shooks and Sinton. So I just want to make sure I had this correctly, but we want to propose moving the remaining funds in Shooks Run, Pikes Peak Greenway, and the Templeton Gap Trail corridors into Sinton Trail. And the Parks Department has asked for that so they can consolidate and focus the remaining of their RTA $2 on that trail, since that's their top priority moving forward. The second table focuses on line item transfers for the ALS capital projects. This is primarily be done to have the construction funds necessary for the Las Vegas Street and Royal Rail Crossing relocation project. The source of those funds to transfer into that project are three, from three places. One's from the West Fillmore project, which is complete now. So we're doing the first transfer of remaining funds out of that project, and the first one is in the amount of $239,000. We also have a design-only project on the list. It's the our Nevada and Tejon Street Crossing Project. As you recall, we have received a federal grant on that, and we know we have some extra local money on that. So we're proposing to transfer $500,000 out of that project. And then the last one to fund the Las Vegas Royer project is to take money out of the Union Pacific Mainline over Fontanero project, which is still in the engineering phase. That will be the last project you'll see us completing under RTA 2. And we had been including the construction dollars in that project for the siding bridge, which is going to need to be replaced at the same time. And we just don't have enough cost certainty at this point, and we know that we thought we were always going to have to use emergency bridge program funds to help with that siding bridge in the future. So that's where you'll see money coming out. And that right now we would be pulling out $2.611 million. So with that, we would be putting enough funds available for that Las Vegas Royer project to get us through construction. We would still be carrying some project contingency in there, but we feel like that's necessary as we go through this phase. There is one other transfer also shown on table 2, and that is to move monies from the south segment to the north segment. As you recall, we've had some closeout change orders associated with that, and we've been working on balancing the funds to be able to close out the work that's been done on that north segment. And so to be able to finish closing out the finances on that, we need to move 1.1 million from the south segment to the north segment. So this is the line item transfer. So we're asking for the CAC's recommendation for approval.
Gail, I got a question on the Las Vegas Street Royer crossing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that project's been going on forever. It's been on the.
14 years.
Yeah,
I'm not joking. It's like 14 years.
Yeah. And so where is it? I mean,
You're gonna be hopefully approving a construction contract today.
we're gonna see dirt moved.
I know. Can you believe it?
No more stuck
I
tractor
know. I'm
trailers.
I'm thrilled.
I remember that thing. It's been on the record, on the books and discussed for years. So, okay.
So what's
All
on
right.
the
Remember, it was discussed during RTA 1,
Yeah.
then put on the RTA 2 ballot. So
Any other questions for Gail on the line item transfers? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the city's request for line item?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, wait a
I just
minute.
Mr. Zelenak he tried to jump in earlier. I don't know if he still needed to, but I just want to make sure we don't go over him.
Oh, David?
Oh, but thanks. Just making a little humor there, asking Gail if it was on the right track.
pun accepted. Thank you.
Way to go, David. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the city's line item request as presented? All right. Thank you, Craig. Any other second? Barb?
Barb Winter, second.
Second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 6B, City of Colorado Springs contract.
All right, Gail Student with the City of Colorado Springs again. So Las Vegas Royer project we just talked about as our first contract. That is an RTA 2 A-list project. There is a map located in your packet to remind you where that happens, and it actually is spot construction in 2 locations. One of the locations, the first one will be the construction of a new intersection connecting a new road, which is being referred to as Twin Bridges Road. That will sit there approximately where US 24 goes over Las Vegas Road today, and will be connected through property currently owned by Colorado Springs Utilities. So with that, we'll be doing that new intersection, new at-grade rail crossing. Second part of the contract, we will be going and removing the existing rail crossing at Royer, where it is today, and turning Royer north of the rail track into a cul-de-sac. Removing that construction point. The city went through an RFP process. We made a best value selection for SEMA in the amount of $12,673,308.02 total. The city did have $43,111 from developer contributions for, it's basically a driveway connection when we go to make changes to the Royer cul-de-sac. All right, the city's second contract is for the UPRR over Fontenelle Bridge Replacement Project, also an RTA2 A-list project. Again, there's a map included in your packet to show you where that's at. It's really just to the east side of I-25. What was the Fountain Inn exit, now it's the Centennial exit. And this is, we've really been working hard with the roads to figure out how we could able to construct both these rail bridges and still be able to keep rail traffic moving during construction. We've gotten the railroads to agree to do a rapid bridge replacement. But in doing so, we are going to have BNSF actually do that work for us in the future. And then the city would be doing the rest of the road work, other changes that need to change for access into the Colorado Springs Utilities facilities because of the changes associated with that project. So now that we have some final, some scope definition, we're doing an engineering construction change, or I'm sorry, engineering design change order with HDR in the amount of $477,671. And with that, we would see them delivering two separate construction packages to us, one of which we would be paying for BNSF to do the bridges, and then we would be hiring our own contractor to do the rest of the work that needs to go with the rest of the project associated with that work. Contract number 3 is for the Peterson Space Force Base Gate and Access Safety Improvements. We've been using 2 other federal grants that we received. First one from Department of Defense and congressionally directed spending along with the intersection improvement project to do the engineering piece of it. And now we're getting ready to go to construction. And we do have, we did receive a $10.7.1 million grant for the Department of Defense for construction. And the local match for that is been slated to come from the intersection improvements program. Just so you're aware, it's a 70-30 split is what's required in our grant agreement. This is to add construction management and inspection services to basis contract. So the total for this work is in the amount of $1,497,982.30. The PPRTA portion of that 30% is the $449,394.69. Contract number 4 is for on-call landscape capital maintenance. The city had gone through an RFP process and made a selection with TP Enterprises. This is where we'll be exercised in the 4th option year. And this is a maintenance program that is set up to provide ongoing maintenance activities for PPRTA capital projects that have been completed. I'm going to go ahead and present contracts 5 and 6, and then I think Rick wants to discuss those and some of the supplemental information. I think you received information from Rick about some policies that have happened in the past, or informal policies that happened in the past. And then one of the other supplemental things you have received is basically a justification memo or a discussion on how the city ended up using maintenance dollars in the past for these 2 contracts and why we had proposed maintenance funding, and then open it up for discussion, if that makes sense. So contract number 5 is the 31st Street Bridge, pedestrian bridge over Camp Creek. There is a map located in your packet, and this is to replace a bridge, a pedestrian bridge that really helps to support pedestrian movements near Hobart Elementary School. This is in that Pleasant Valley neighborhood in that area. So this bridge happened to be struck by a vehicle, I think it was in April 24, caused a significant amount of damage. We did hire an engineering firm, and we did do some maintenance work to get that bridge rehabbed. And we have been able to get it operational, but really there's still a lot of deficiencies on it. So we started down this maintenance path for this particular project, and then realized it may be best interest both for the safety and the ADA compliance, and actually overall cost efficiency to use maintenance funding associated with that. So we proceeded to put a construction package together and put it out for a bid, and we received bids in the amount of $789,915.60 for Wildcat Construction. And then you'll see in the informational, and if this funding source was to change, it could bump up for an approved contract or contract approval. We were actually adding a change order to an existing contract for some additional design service necessary to support the replacement of this bridge. And that would be in the amount of $109,130 to Wilson and Company. So I am going to be asking for CAC's recommendation on this, but I do want to have Rick give a reminder of some things that have happened related to the use of maintenance and capital funds in the past, and then come back and talk a little bit about the memo that we've provided supplementing for how we ended up down that maintenance path. And get your input on whether or not that would be acceptable to proceed, or if you would ask us to change to a capital source. So Rick, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe the CAC received an email or a memo from me in your packet and a supplemental from Gail addressing my memo. Does everybody have those two? Okay. As the CAC members are aware, the last two contracts that Gail just mentioned, contracts number 5 and 6 on your agenda, are for the replacement of a very needed pedestrian bridge using the city's PPRTA maintenance funds, which is the city's request. I placed a memo in the CAC agenda packet stating my concerns regarding using PPRTA maintenance funds for the replacement of this bridge. The first attachment to my memo is an excerpt, excuse me, from the 6th amended and restated establishing IGA. As a reminder, the establishing IGA is a document between the governing bodies of the 6 member governments, setting the rules for how the PPRTA board, PPRTA CAC, PPRTA staff, and member government staff members will function using PPRTA funds. That excerpt states, in effect, that maintenance funds shall not be used for capital projects and capital funds shall not be used for maintenance projects. Second attachment is an administrative guideline which the board received and reviewed at its January 2020 board meeting after a series of discussions regarding what is maintenance and what is capital, since none of the previous PPRTA documents defined what constitutes maintenance projects. This administrative guideline is not a board policy. However, it has some level of guidance for the board, the CAC, PPRTA staff, and member government. It states on line 8 that bridge replacements should be considered a capital expenditure. With these two documents in existence, I feel it's my role to provide this information and my recommendation to the CAC. Consequently, my recommendation to the CAC is to deny these two contracts from the city's PPRTA maintenance funding pending the city's revision to use its capital funding for the bridge replacement, both for the change order for the design for the replacement and for the construction for the replacement. City has available its PPRTA 2 capital program fund accounts of emergency bridge fund and pedestrian transportation improvements. Of course, the pedestrian transportation improvements historically have been used for sidewalks, but that title, pedestrian transportation improvements, could easily be interpreted for the replacement of a pedestrian bridge. This is a very short bridge over a drainage way. And the PPRTA 2 funds would be using unspent carryover funds from 2024. City might have to use a line item transfer to move some funds into these two accounts. The other option is the city would have the option of using its emergency bridge fund, program fund out of its PPRTA 3 capital program budget. The CAC can develop its recommendation of the board The board will then have recommendation from city staff, my recommendation, the CAC's recommendation, and the board attorney's recommendation. The board will make the final decision. I'll take any questions you might have.
Before we start discussion on the merits of this, I've got a question and I think the answer may impact my thinking a little bit. Seems I remember that when we built that drainage catch basin up on the north end of Garden of the Gods, and as a result of that, they were able to eliminate the flood zone requirement for all those homes down in Pleasant Valley down there. There was discussion recently, within the last year, the condition of that drainage ditch is horrible. It's terrible. It's falling apart. It's been repaired. And there was discussion about replacing that or filling it in with a culvert or something. What is the status of that? And the reason I'm asking that is I don't know that I would be, that is an important bridging. It's right in front of that elementary school. And the majority of the students are on the other side of that ditch in that residential area. And you'd have to walk either a full block or go back a block and walk up, depending on where you lived in that neighborhood. So I get the importance of this bridge and it needs to be safe. But I'd hate to put a bridge, build a new bridge on it, and then 3 years from now, tear it down and fill it in or something. So do you have an idea where we are with that? What they're gonna do?
I will try to fill you in on most of that. So you're right that one of the results of the Camp Creek drainage basin that was built there north of Garden of the or there by Garden of the Gods Park does help remove a lot of those homes from the floodway. But Camp Creek does still need to flow through there. And there is concept plans that would show that still is an open channel. It would, none of the concept plans I've seen would call for it being a closed route. So it would still be open. It would just, so I recall from the concept, it would be more of an open grass line channel versus the concrete hardscape that you see today.
Okay.
I will mention this bridge goes over, it's just a pedestrian bridge. We are looking at 2 other bridge projects for replacement on that channel, just to kind of keep you up to date. One is the Water Street Bridge, which we are using emergency bridge funds, but we also have to do the design work, and we do have a state or off-system bridge grant to be able to help with the replacement of that. And then we have another one, which is at 31st Street. And so if you recall, that open channel starts to go underground and becomes basically a long bridge around Bijou Street. So we are working to redoing that intersection at 31st and Fontenarrow in that area, and it would be a roundabout, but that really is a bridge replacement project plus fixing the traffic problems at that four-way, that weird 6-legged four-way stop, right? I don't know how else to describe it. So that is a project going on, and most of those funds are going to be coming from, at least construction will be coming from federal funding grant. So just wanted to fill you in on that. So that's kind of what's going on in that whole system in this area. We would not normally be replacing this bridge, but because it was damaged, we did have to do something, and we do recognize in this area, it's not just the outer distance travel, Jim, for these students to enter that elementary school. It's not really great ADA compliant walkways, and there's areas where there's sidewalks that are missing in the area. So this bridge is very important for the safety of those children going to that school in this area. So it's not that we could potentially have just left the maintenance projects there if it wasn't something that's going to be used a lot, or maybe used by maybe more sophisticated folks, but it has a high volume of children. It's got some safety concerns. So we felt like it was important to transition this maintenance portion to a full replacement. And I did want, and the reason why I put the memo in here, one, because we'd already submitted the documents to Rick, but 2, I wanted to know that we understand the policies and the directions that the city has received from PPRTA, and in no fashions were we trying to do anything nefarious related to it. We generally thought we were headed down a truly maintenance path, and we recognized the distinction between a replacement and maintenance, but felt like in this case, it was a project where it really became a better return on our investment to proceed instead of trying to rehab this bridge that was having other damage on it to go through the replacement. So I wanted to share that with you. I will say, I do would like to proceed with a recommendation approval. If the CAC's recommendation is going to be we change to capital funds, the city would reprogram and give Rick updated information where we would be using RTA to emergency bridge funds. He's right, I do have unspent funds. I've had them earmarked for other projects, but it is important for us to proceed with this contract. And one of the reasons why we pushed this construction contract now is to be able to get the work done before the next school year. So it's very important for us, regardless of the fashion, that the CAC recommends that we proceed with the contract. So if you deem it necessary, it should be capital funds. We would change it to that funding account source. And I'm happy to take questions. I'm sure Rick is as well.
Any discussion, any comments? Dave, you got your hand up?
Thank you. Help me understand, and I'm all for replacing the bridge, and maybe this is, I think what the US government has called in the past repair by replacement. That sounds like an oxymoron. But I guess my question really maybe is help me understand, this is almost $1 million for a 100-foot ped bridge, roughly. Did I get that right? $800,000, I'm sure, plus additional fees and the ancillary costs for close to $800,000 for a 100-foot ped bridge.
That is correct. That is the bids, and we did go out for a bid for this project. We did not use an on-call contractor.
Wow. And if I recall correctly, that's just a precast double T, I think, is I've driven by that. We all have 100 times, I'm sure, but just wondering why the big cost difference.
Hold on, I'm pausing just because the phone of friends have been messaging me, so I'm looking to sort of ask me all these bridge type questions, Dave, and I don't know the answer to that question. I think you're
That's
right
okay.
that it was a double T.
Precast double T, I think, is what it looked like, and
Yeah,
I'm
I believe
far
it's
from a bridge
what it is.
expert, but it just seems 800K for a small ped bridge seems a little on the high side. That's more my question. And I don't have a problem with it really. I'm ambivalent either way. It's just I'm concerned about the price tag. So,
And I would say, because when you go and Dave, I know you're aware of this, anytime we go and touch anything, we have to make sure everything adjacent to it is ADA compliant. So right now, there's no ADA compliant route, so I know we have some flat works associated.
Yeah,
with
I was
that
gonna
as
say,
well.
when you come off that bridge, there is no left shoulder or a shoulder on the culvert side of that. So you just step down off the bridge right into the street, if I remember right.
I believe that is correct, yes.
So, I mean, that would be very difficult for an ADA or somebody in a wheelchair, although I'm sure they're accustomed to going around or whatever, but yeah, like you said, as soon as you touch it, you got to make it compliant. That's going to be, which would lower it with reduced risk of flooding on that, lowering it down to surface level would make it easier, but you still got to dig into the sides and all that stuff to stabilize
well,
it.
just wondering likewise if it's a breakaway structure. I know some of the bridges, I seem to recall on the Fountain Valley like ped trail have a breakaway design. When the floodwaters come up, it'll float and then you just rotate 90 degrees to let the water go through. So I don't know if that's a design. I'm not about to design it, obviously, over.
Right. And it is a truss bridge, and we did have to move the bridge 40 feet to the north to
Okay.
make sure we weren't creating floodplain issues.
Okay. Yeah. That was where my question was going. Is there a flood issue with it,
Yeah.
given the panel configuration? Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
That school's also a good place for firefighters to sleep during a forest fire.
Good to know.
I think that's where they slept during Waldo Canyon, I think. But anyway, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Rick, I may have missed it during your presentation, but how long has it been the case that bridges all have to be deemed capital instead of maintenance? Has that been the entire time, 1, 2, and 3? Or did it change partway through?
January 2020. January of 2020 is when the board approved the administrative guidance, or they didn't approve, they received the administrative guidance that I put in the packet.
And was there unanimous consent, or was there a long
It was
conversation?
not voted on. It was just received.
Oh, it was just a,
It was an information item.
right.
But there was no dissension that I recall.
So prior to that, you could basically do it either way. You could do maintenance or capital. There wasn't a hard and fast if you
Um,
were replacing a bridge.
Possibly.
Okay, this seems like a fun, complicated issue. So given that that happened in 2020, I'm just curious as to why you presented it as maintenance. Just.
Well, we presented it by maintenance because we started down a maintenance path, and honestly, it really wasn't until Rick questioned it that we really questioned it internally. And I think, Dave, you did a great job explaining to it as we went through and were dealing with it. It came back, the recommendation was replacement was going to be more economical than trying to keep working with a damaged structure. So again, it was not nefarious by any means. It was just the path we started down. And, you know, when we realized we were going to have to replace it, that's how we programmed funding for it. And so we submitted it. So, again, happy to do whichever the CAC and the board would recommend for this, but if it was possible, I prefer to use maintenance funds, but if you feel very strongly about it, I would use the PPRTA to emergency bridge funds.
Any other discussion or comments from anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not done yet. Okay.
So I would say if for 15 years, this was perfectly acceptable. Something happened in 2020 that the conversation came up. I would call this more of a policy issue that's come about in the last 5 years. So I'm comfortable presenting it as maintenance, and if there's board members that feel strongly as to what happened in 2020 and why they want to keep it in capital, I think they can have that conversation and have the issue and a bigger conversation of, is this how we want to keep it? Or do we want to have a policy change, which really isn't a policy change, and informational item change to reintroduce the flexibility when it comes to bridges, especially for a pedestrian bridge. It's not like it's a giant bridge over I-25, even though I can't fathom how it's $800,000, but that's another conversation.
Ed?
Yeah, a couple of things. Did I understand you to say that it was being moved 40 foot?
It is, it's being moved 40 feet, I believe, to the north.
So when I look at it that way, that kind of makes it sound like it's a whole new construction versus a maintenance issue. But, you know, I realize it needs to be done. The other question I would have is for Rick. I know where you stand. You told us, do we know where Jennifer Ivey or the attorneys stand?
I do, but she has not released me to share it with the public.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Go ahead, Craig.
So if you do have to go back and represent it, which is what I think I heard you say, if we ask you to do it as a capital project, what, obviously that's going to push the timeline back a little bit, will it, or will it?
Yeah, well, it would. That's why I would ask if this is the direction that you would prefer we proceed, and that I would ask for approval of the contracts, but using the RTA2 emergency bridge funds, because
Okay,
it's very important for us from the school and the timing that we get that bridge replaced, regardless. So if that's the direction, I would be asking for it to be contingent upon using those funds.
okay.
Thank you for that clarification. That's very important.
Any further discussion, comments, ideas?
Mr. Chair, Carlos does have his hand raised.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you bring up that chart where we had decided capital versus maintenance there? Just my vague recollection on this, and again, people can correct me wrong. When we're looking at number 8, replacing bridges. At the time, I had understood this to be more for car, truck, heavy vehicle type of infrastructure. When we're looking at replacing bridges around the region, they can be like $20 million plus. And so this I would see as really more adding to pedestrian type of infrastructure. Even though it's a bridge, technically it's a bridge. I had understood replacing bridges to be like $20, $30 million projects, not just simple maintenance on pedestrian infrastructure. So I'm inclined to see this and argue that this is really a maintenance type of work, because it's the entire corridor, pedestrian walkshed that's being maintained versus, you know, a very expensive project. And Gail, you can kind of chime in on this, but you know, I can tell you right now, what I tell people when it comes to replacing or building bridges for cars, that's one of the most expensive line items that the taxpayers are going to pay for. They're very expensive. If you want to spend a lot of money, go into the bridge business. So I'm inclined to see this as maintenance because I see this as a travel shed for pedestrians, and it's again looking at the orders of magnitude and cost related to bridges. This isn't a vehicle bridge. This is a pedestrian bridge, and like I said, the scale and scope of this type of bridge is very, very small. And so, you know, solving a problem and marking this as a maintenance project seems to be the right approach.
Thank you. Kathy, you have your hand up?
I do. I support Rick's assessment that this item should go under capital. It is a bridge. We're essentially replacing it, and we do have the category of emergency bridge replacement. So my position is capital, and I support Rick's position.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so just a question, and being the new guy, I'm not sure if we can mix funds, but since this wasn't a programmed replacement, and I'm kind of thinking was the initial thinking. And yes, there's improvements, there's ADA improvements, we're moving it. Is there any way to partially fund it from each? Since like the improvement part of it, is that optional? And again, since it wasn't programmed, it was a, you know, I mean, a car hit it and took it out. And so like if it was to be replaced in kind in place, I don't know if that would change the conversation, but just asking, not knowing.
Brandy?
I think the only reason that I personally would think that's not a great idea, because you want to put all of the monies together to fund a project. And if you split it, you might have a smaller project in one of those buckets. Whereas right now, we know this one is $800,000. Let's just fund it out of one bucket, because as you're managing it behind the scenes, you don't want to have to do any more paperwork than necessary. So that's one reason that I would say, let's just pick one. It's either going to be maintenance or it's going to be the emergency funds. But if we split it, that's just more programming nightmares.
I don't have any guidance over the 20 years from the board or any of our documents to be able to say yes to that, Jeff. So I can't say yes to it.
All right. So not seeing any more hands raised and no more questions in here. Let me suggest this. Let's bifurcate this projects from the overall city's contract list. Vote on the contract list. And then let's take a separate vote on this project. And we'll do a roll call vote, or so that we can make sure we get the right distribution of yays and nays. And then if it is a nay, then as Gail requested, someone recommend that the language be such that she can go back and correct that as she's requested us to do. Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Okay, so let me take a motion from someone to bifurcate projects 5 and 6 from the city's contract list first. Let's do that. And then we'll take the second step will be to take a vote on the other 4 projects. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll move. Let's we bifurcate the
I have
number.
a question. Do we actually have to bifurcate it, or can we just move to approve 1 through 4? Or do we have to actually take a vote to bifurcate it, Rick?
I would think you could just take a vote on 1 through
Yeah.
4.
1 through 4.
Yeah, one less step.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dave.
all right.
In that case, I'll adjust my almost motion. I'd like to move that we approve items 1 through 4. How's that? Is that easier, Brandy?
Of item 6B, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve projects 1 through 4 on item 6B. Any second?
I'll second. Steve
Okay,
Murray.
thanks, Steve. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all right. So now on project 5 and 6, let's take a vote on leaving it in maintenance and approving it as presented. So for the folks that are online, if you could raise your hand on your, oh,
Let's
wait a
get a
minute.
motion and a second first.
Yeah, okay. Rick, okay, that what you were gonna say? Okay, so I have a motion to, let's vote on projects 5 and 6.
Dave,
And
you want to make the motions?
say again?
Dave needs to make the motion. No,
Oh.
one made a motion yet.
Yeah, I just want to do a small change here of number 6 should be rather than engineering. I believe there's a typo there, just a small thing, but being an engineer myself. I just wanted to call out a small typo change, if you'd be so
Okay.
kind.
So do I have a
Mr.
motion to
Oh, Mr.
to
Chair?
review these two projects?
Mr. Chair, Carlos
Yeah.
Perez here.
Go
Just
ahead, Carl.
a point, just a question clarification here. This is actually presented as informational, and if you look at our change order log, item number 6 is in the change log. It doesn't require a vote. Is 6, are we voting on 6, even
We're
though
on
it's marked as?
6B. 6B has a recommendation. We are not talking about that. Oh. Well, then you tell.
I'm sorry,
It's
let me
informational.
make a clarification. Line item contract, line item, agenda item 6B. Item number 6, 31st, there's two items in this contract list.
Yes.
Is informational, are we voting on that, or is that just a change order? I
Gail's
just want to
gonna
clarify, what am I voting on?
Gail's going to explain.
Mr. Chair, can I say, I would like you, if it's possible, to go through 2 rounds of votes,
Okay.
depending on the outcome. The first one is to approve as presented, where 5 you would be voting for approval and 6 is informational only technically by the change order logs. If you choose not to approve that on the second one, I'd be asking for approval for contracts 5 and 6 using the PPRTA emergency bridge funds. Because then if it becomes capital, it has different rules about whether it goes on the change order log or not.
Okay. All right. So everybody understand that? Because item 6 is on the change order because it's maintenance, you can't put a capital contract increase on the change order log over a certain amount or something, right? Yes. And so be a 2-step process.
Mr. Chair, I guess I should have jumped in earlier. I think contract number 6 needs to be approval, not informational. Correct. Okay. If it's capital, then it would be. Okay,
That's what I said, if we.
okay, so if contract number 6, well, but my advocacy is, okay, is that contract number 6 should be capital. So, okay, sorry.
Okay. So for contract number 5, do I have a motion to approve it as a maintenance contract as presented?
Yes, I will make that motion for agenda item 6B. I move approval of item 5 as presented as a maintenance item.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Steve, we have a second. All those in favor of approving item 6B, contract number 5 for Wildcat Construction as a maintenance contract, raise your hand. So we have 4. We got Tony and Jamie on, and Carlos. So we have 5.
And Steve Murray.
And David.
Oh, and Dave. Okay, so we have 6. Who?
So it's 4 online and 2 here.
Where's Steve?
There.
Oh, I got it. Physical, got it. Okay.
I had my
Okay.
physical hand up. I was trying to figure out what the reaction was.
Okay, six, five. You'll go, man. So how many were in here again? So the 3 and the 5 here is 8. Okay, all those opposed to doing under maintenance, raise your hand. Steve and Dave, Steve, take yours down. Kathy, is you doing maintenance or you're capital, right? Okay,
Yes, capital.
okay. Seven, till that I count, okay. Okay, so then for item 6B, contract number 5,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
yes,
Can we have the total count again? And I'm sorry, Mr. Stang, uh, are you voting? Well, you were appointed by the manager, Springs City Council. But I wasn't aware of the timing of your appointment. Are you considering yourself a CAC member replacing Alan Delwich?
Mr. Stang. There he goes. Mr. Stang, you there?
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, double muted. Sorry, I was not planning on voting today.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm counting 16 in attendance today, and by count I have 8 in favor and 7 against. So that's
Mr.
sorry,
Chair,
I'm missing someone.
Ed,
Mr. Chair,
oh, go ahead.
I still haven't figured out how to raise my hand.
Oh, okay,
So I don't know that I voted, but I wanted to vote, nay on that.
okay,
So that would be maybe I'm one of the missing people.
okay, so Rick's voting day, so that'll make it tied at 8-8.
Pardon me? I don't know. I don't know. But he's abstaining regardless. So, Mr. Hoover, did you vote no for maintenance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 8-8. Okay,
So with the tide, it's,
So we just take it to the board as a tie. And so that would mean that project 6 in item 5B would remain informational and would continue under maintenance unless it's changed by the board. Is that the way I'm reading that?
I would think so, but I would ask for, if somebody wouldn't mind, that should the board want us to change it to capital, that CAC does another vote, just to show affirmation if that was the direction that we're gonna go, because it's, again, I'm very concerned about this being delayed, and I want to make sure we have our bases covered to get this ped bridge done while school's in preparation for the next school year.
Mr. Chair, my suggestion to the city is that for the CAC to take the 8-8 vote to the board next week. It'll be in tomorrow's packet. Sorry, but for the city to have its capital account number ready for the board to approve on the spot next Wednesday, to not delay the project.
That all right with you, Gail?
That works. Ryan would love to be able to do that. He's looking forward to it. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. I appreciate the discussion and your support today, and understanding whether you voted yea or nay. I mean, it was a tough situation, and as you can see, we were headed down a path and realized we needed to pivot. And again, as I mentioned before, it wasn't meant to be this controversial, just trying to do the right thing. So thank you.
Yep, and just Vice President, this is not the first bridge that has started out as a repair or rehab that's turned into a total replacement. So Academy Bridge over Cottonwood Creek and Circle Bridges have all started down that road before. So, okay,
Can I just say the thing?
okay.
Gail, one of the reasons why I voted against it, for maintenance, and it should be capital, is that if you were doing it in the same location, where the bridge is right now, but you're moving at 40 feet. So that means that you're basically rebuilding the supports, the access, and basically you're rebuilding the bridge to a new bridge. And so therefore, that's why I voted against it being maintenance. If, like I say, if it was in the same place, I could see maintenance, but when you're moving at 40 feet, you have to completely rebuild the whole structure, access and everything, then that completely changes it into a capital project.
Thank you. Understood. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Russ.
Is the old one in service now?
It is being used today.
So you're actually coming out ahead by having the old one in place while the new one's being built. Otherwise, what would you do if you had to tear it up?
Those are long blocks. So where the crosses are, because there's not a crossover from one side to the other at every street. So that's 2 or 3 blocks between crossovers. So it's a long walk for someone to have to go. So anyway, all right, good discussion, folks. That was great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
Mr. Zolnok has his hand raised.
Go ahead, David. I'm sorry. I wasn't watching.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just one quick comment. And Larry, I absolutely appreciate, respect everything you said. And I seldom justify my votes in this case, and not that it matters much at this point anyway, but the reason for my vote really was the sense I have, Gail, is that the ADA requirement, it's important. In my mind, it's an unfunded mandate. The water surface elevation for the 100-year floodplain floodway requirements, that feels like an unfunded mandate. And I would think that anything we can do to reduce the federal mandates on our government, I'm all in favor of. So this is a nail biter and a hair splitter, but I think with the unfunded federal mandate, that's what tipped it in my mind to approve this thing. So there, I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to item 6C, El Paso County line item transfer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Josh Palmer, County Engineer. The supplemental information that you have in front of you just adds a cover letter to both of the items that the county is bringing before the CAC today. Both of those items, the paving program and the line item transfer, are already part of the packet. And the second thing that you have in front of you is just a revision to the contract request for the 2025 paving program. So we'll start with the line item transfer. We're requesting to transfer a whopping sum of $898 from the New Meridian US 24 project, PPRTA 1 project, into the PPRTA 1 Mark Shuffle project from Peterson Air Force Base to Black Forest. So the transfer will transfer from one project to the other and increase the budget amount by the same amount to the Mark Shuffle Road project.
Okay.
It sounds like Gail's already spent that money, so good. And the second item, again, what you have in front of you in the supplemental is just adding in the contractor that we selected when we initially put the packet together. We were still in the process of reviewing the proposals or the bids from the contractors for our 25 paving program. And we just yesterday had our contracts and procurement office approve the contract. So rather than waiting for the 3 or 4 weeks in between the CAC and PPRTA board meeting, and then the time it takes to go to our Board of County Commissioners for approval, it could put us about a month behind and we didn't want to waste any time getting out to start paving. So we initially submitted it for request for your recommendation without the contractor, but we are requesting to approve a not to exceed amount of $6 million to Martin Marietta for the county's 25 PPRTA paving program.
Okay, any questions for Josh on his two contracts? I have a motion to approve the county's request as presented.
Larry Tobias, I move that the two items presented by Josh be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Ed Dills.
All right, thank you, Ed. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any or hearing any. Motion carries. Thanks, Josh.
Mr. Chair, just a clarification, was that for both items 6C and 6D on a single motion?
Yeah, I just saw the 6D, so that would
Yeah.
have been for just for clarity from the record that that's for item 6C and 6D versus two separate votes.
Larry did such a great job. I wasn't gonna slow him down.
All right, item number 7, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services Monthly Report. Floor is yours, Lan.
Good afternoon, Line Rail Transit Division Manager. We have our regular transit monthly report in your packet, and it's a information only item. So in the packet, we included our January 2025 ridership information from both the fixed route and ADA paratransit service side. We have seen some decrease in the ridership, and this is mainly due to the weather events that we saw in January this year. Compared to January 2024, there was no weather-related cancellation. Moving on to the transit highlight section. The first one is a heartwarming story. Since 2022, Mountain Metro Transit has collaborated with Busing on the Lookout to combat human trafficking in Colorado Springs. And in the evening of February 6th, our security guard spotted a young girl at the bus terminal who seemed to be a little confused and distressed. So they called CSPD, and the CSPD officer were able to confirm and called her parents, who reported her as missing as of that morning. So we were able to connect her with her family that day, and that was a really positive thing that we recognize with the security guards.
Awesome.
Also in this packet, we included our 2025 spring service change proposal. We are proposing to increase the frequency on Route 4 from 60 minutes to 30 minutes. Route 4 travels between downtown terminal and the Broadmoor along driving on 8th Street. So this is consistent with our service standards identified in our Title VI program, as well as our long-range transportation plan that was just completed. We are currently in the public comment period. That notice went out on February 24th, and it will close on March the 10th. Based on the feedback, we will come up with a summary and make a final decision whether or not we move forward with this change. We believe this is positive improvement to our system. Snow route is another big topic. We included quite a few paragraphs here. To summarize what we're doing, in the past, if there was a snow event and the road conditions were not optimal, we would make a decision about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning in consultation with our contract dispatchers, management, drivers, as well as operations and maintenance division from the city. We will make a decision whether or not we can operate as normal, we have to delay, or we'll make a decision maybe later on. So that was our old practice. This year, working with our frontline transit workers, as well as the operations and maintenance division, what we have created is a new, it's called snow map, snow route map. So from out of the 33 fixed route services that we provide in winter, we identified 14 bus routes. Those are the bus routes that are primarily overlap with the primary roads that operations and maintenance will plow. So instead of delaying, canceling that our entire system, now based on how fast the snow is falling and how fast we can clean and plow the roads, we are providing limited service, not a full service, but more of a baseline on trunk routes. Compared to last year, just in the short time that we implemented the snow routes, if we were operating under the old way, we would have had 4 more days of cancellation so far this year, and we were able to avoid that full cancellation or full system delay. We have been receiving very positive feedback from transit riders. As you know, in customer service area, you normally hear the negative, the complaints and the issues, and we're very happy to see positive feedback from our customers. They understand there are still could be detours and cancellations depending on the snow situation, but for the most part, people are very happy that we're doing what we can to provide, even on a limited basis, service that we can. So that concludes my report.
Good report. Any questions for Lan? Anybody online? All right, very good. Thank you so much, Lan. Appreciate that. All right, item 7B is the monthly change order and property acquisition report. It's information. It's in your packet. Any questions or anything on that? All right, not seeing any. Colorado Springs Powers North reimbursement update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Gail Sturgeon with City of Colorado Springs. In keeping with the requirements of the reimbursement agreement that exists between the 4 parties of PPRTA, El Paso County, Colorado Springs, and the Copper Ridge Metro District, we're reporting costs incurred that are going to be eligible for reimbursement. This statement summary is in the amount of $407,207.67, and all of that is attributed and eligible for PPRTA refund or reimbursement, and that brings the total to $16,355,520.59.
Just a question. I haven't been up there on this particular area lately, but is anything being done yet on the south end as it crosses 83? Whether it's on the power, extending powers under 83 or anything, clearing land or anything up there going down from there?
Everything that's happening
Okay.
there right now.
Okay, I hadn't been over there in a while. I just thought
No, and there is a development, and it's referred to as Flying Horse Downtown that's been in contemplating, but nothing's moving there or with the road project.
Okay, thank you. The bridge looks good up at the north end. That's a big improvement up there. All right, go ahead, Larry.
Gail, when will the reimbursements begin for Copper Ridge?
Next week, I think.
Oh.
No, so yes, that it's for 25 funds, and because we haven't received any funds, we thought it would be after we got our first check.
Yes, in the next pay cycle, after this week, we'll be cutting checks Thursday and Friday this week, and then it'll be 2 weeks after that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. In your packet, item 7D, your quarterly report from all the member governments. Just another reminder, this is awesome. When you throw everything else away, when you get home, this is something real nice to kind of keep handy. A lot of effort goes into this by the member governments. I want to publicly thank all of you again for a great report. A lot of information in here. So thank you, Larry.
I've got a question for Gail on the City of Colorado Springs, Mark Scheffel project between North Carefree and Barnes. Your presentation indicates that the was completed in late 2024, except for the final paving and also the final lane striping. However, for the last several months, approximately, I'd say, I didn't really measure, but say about 3/4 of a mile to a mile north of North Carefree. Mark Scheffel goes from 4 lanes down to 2 through that area. And there is construction going on in the median of the road through that area. And that's been going on for quite a while. What is happening there?
So if I understood you correctly, we've broken this project into several phases. That first phase, they really focused on the work from North Carefree up to Tamlin and lowering that Barnes intersection. And that work has been done other than the final mat for a few months. They have been going through and working north of Tamlin on utility duct bank work, and they're actually even starting to move up into Dublin now. So were you talking in that section between North Carefree and Tamlin? Because that
No.
could be done.
No, I'm talking about the section south of Barnes on Mark Scheffel and north of North Carefree, approximately 3/4 of a mile. They've got construction signs, and the road goes down, like I say, from a 4-lane road down to 2 lanes, 1 lane in either direction. And they have a bunch of equipment that has been operating in the center median there for several months now. And I was just wondering what was happening, since it stated that the road is complete, but in actuality, it isn't, because we've gone from, like I say, a 4-lane road down to a 2-lane road.
Oh, I think the work is generally still complete. So I'm sorry, I just was pulling up a note. It looks like they're doing something. Oh, that's still north of Tamlin.
Yeah, this is south of,
Yeah, so
south
I
of
don't know
Barnes.
the answer off the top of my head, Larry, I apologize. Most of what we have been doing has been done. There have been some fiber optic companies coming in there and doing work because we put a joint utility duct bank. So I would have to ask my construction team if that's what's going on. But as far as what we've had Kramer do through there, other than that top mat that we're reserving to the very end, it's done for us.
Yeah, and through that area that I'm describing, the pavement is done, but they're using it on both sides of that median to have their equipment, parked there. And some of the equipment they have is really heavy, so I don't think it's fiber optic lines.
And it could be having equipment out there. My apologies. I don't know exactly what that is, but I can find out.
But yeah, overall, that section of road is really nice. I have to say that, and it is really a good section of road. And if we get it open up to 4 lanes sometime by 2026, that'd make it even better. I'm just being a little sarcastic, Gail.
It's okay.
I'm sure whenever that contractor gets done and whatever he's doing, then we'll go back to 4 lanes through there.
Yes, I would assume so as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Item 8, administrative action reports. Rick?
The highlights of the February 12 board meeting are in your packet. I'll be glad to take any questions. It's an information item. Thank you.
Okay, what about 8B?
Okay, this is your 2025 annual report to the citizens, a draft for your review. Each year we have the luxury of one CAC member who is eagle eye, and this year it's Kathy Heisey. She sent me an email correctly showing 8 typos, which I've noted, and I will get with Jared and we'll make those changes. The other omission is the board's group photo, which will be taken next Wednesday, and then Jared will drop that into the report. Any other comments before you have a vote to recommend the draft to the board?
So it took Kathy to find it and not our public information subcommittee.
Maybe she needs to be added to a subcommittee.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I
sorry
see.
about that. This is Tony. Sorry about that. School has been taking up all my time, so I did not get through that. I apologize.
I was pulling your, buddy.
Mr. Chair, are you trying to fire me?
No, no, not at all, Rick. We need you.
Well, I'm on that committee and I missed it too. Congratulations to her.
That's what teamwork's all about, folks. That's what makes it happen. All right, item number 9, I'm sorry, we gotta approve the annual report. So do I have a motion to approve the annual report with the changes that Rick's gonna make, the administrative changes Rick's gonna make? So move, Miss Karen. Thank you, Karen. Do I have a second? Okay, Craig, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all. All right, topics for the next meeting. Anybody got any burning issues we need to talk about? Okay, not seeing any hands online or in here. Anybody have any communications that you want to communicate to the other members that are not CAC related or are CAC related? Anybody got a promotion? Anything going on? Moving on? Okay, all right. So do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, not seeing one, we're
So
adjourned.
moved.
I will second that.
Thanks, everyone. Good job.